Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth Walker, your producer and host, bringing you exclusive spotlights, interviews, articles, free resources. This is Dear Business Coach, the podcast. Listen, follow, and the email subscription is at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Also, access the free magazine each week. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. And this is Live Producers Notes with Elizabeth Walker. This is Live Producers Notes with Elizabeth Walker. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. This is what I think it's September 8th, and it's 8:35 a.m. Eastern Time. Today, we are on Substack. So guess what? I scheduled today's live for next week. So that's why there was a little bit of a delay. The invites for these live audios are two ways. You can see them here on the Substack posts, or you can get them through your email if you're an email subscriber. There's a couple new things happening if you're an email subscriber. If you don't already know, you can do that at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com/subscribe. And today's actual producer's note session was titled, Are You a Personality? And so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some thoughts today around producing, being a voice. Why do people come and talk to you? Do you know why people come and listen to you? Uh, I used to think a lot about this in terms of, are you interesting? Are you in tune with the common culture? Are you in tune with the pop culture? Sometimes those are the things that I think people are doing out there in order to gain viewership, to gain momentum early in my podcasting career, if you will. I interviewed a gentleman named Trey. He's actually in Virginia, and he does talk about pop culture. And that gentleman got me started thinking about people who talk about topics that are interesting to them, people who learn how to bring topics that are impactful in their everyday lives into important topics for them. And this is very for them and for their audience, excuse me. So I've seen people who can do this with trends. And if you are someone who is adept at social media connection, marketing, and social media talk, you probably have a firsthand, almost secondhand nature at this point about how you go about posting and sharing your work. So I'm thinking about things like, what's the formula when you share something from your work on a social post? Is it caption? Is it caption and then hashtag and then call to action? These are some basic things. And I can tell you, yeah, they help. They make posts more successful, more shareable, more likable. And that's helpful. However, when I say, are you a personality? I'm thinking about the kinds of things that Wow! So we are partnered. The Dear Business Coach podcast is now officially partnered with NordVPN. And you know what? Look out for the logo, some press releases, cool information. What in the heck is a VPN and how does it work? I'm really excited. I travel and now I know how to get the VPN security I need. So Nord is now officially our affiliate partner. Look out for ways to support the show by going to the affiliate link I provide to you in your email and other places you can see it on the website. Thanks so much, NordVPN. I listen for in an interview when I'm talking to a guest on the Dear Business Coach podcast, what makes that interview interesting? So, what's on the podcast? What's on the show? What's going to be streaming soon? What's streaming now? Part of what got me interested in this topic today, too, is literally the guests that I've had on the show that I've recorded with the last couple of weeks. You may already be familiar with Tiffany Smith, who is now streaming on all of the platforms. So if you are listening to the Dear Business Coach podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, whatever your favorite media player is, the current show is Tiffany Smith, and she is a creative professional. I did a spotlight with her for her interview, and if you have already watched or listened to that video, we talk a lot about what's going on in Tiffany's creative process, how she switched from design to film. The title or the name of the episode is "I Quit My Design Job for Film," and I quit my design career for film, and here's what I learned. And that particular this particular interview is one of the first of its kind that I've gotten to do in a while. So part of producers notes is to share with you how the guests get to the show, sometimes how the guests don't get to the show. Sometimes it's did we stumble upon something new and different? What did we learn this week? Well, Tiffany is somebody that met on LinkedIn, and she actually is in between careers. So this is a good time to share with you as well if you're interested in being on a podcast, if you'd like to come to the podcast. Remember, that's what I mean by spotlights, professional spotlights. You don't have to have a particular executive title to be on the Dear Business Coach podcast. You can, but you don't have to. And we learn a lot about each other. Tiffany is in Manhattan, and she has a lot to tell us about her experience with networking. And I thought this was really fascinating. She really surprised me in the interview with some of the most wonderful things to share about what she's learning in her world of networking right now, trying to break into film, switching over from a career of design. And so I'll let you listen to the interview so that you can get from Tiffany what she has to say about what her experience is like right now in her progress there in networking. In fact, the day I interviewed her, she had been to a networking event the night before and was on her way to another networking that same night. So she talks about that in real time during the interview. Okay, so are you a personality? Well, why would I wanna know if you're a personality? Well, I don't need to know if you're a personality. I can decide that on my own when I listen to you speak, when I watch your videos. And I want to say hi, Scott. Hi, Jeff. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining today. This is exciting. Um, I wanted to get some feedback from you all too when you get a chance to listen to these producers' notes. How do you feel about your behind the scenes work? Are you a personality? Do you think you're a personality? If I were to tell a friend or a colleague about you or your social channels or your website or your work, and I were to say, yeah, he's a real personality. You have to go check him out. I bet there are a couple different ways you could take that, and I bet there are a couple different ways that the person that I say that to could take that. Now, if I were the person who heard that, I would probably think, "Oh, I probably should go check this person out. Let's see what does she mean by, oh yeah, he's a personality." So, another reason why I brought up this topic is because of an episode that I recorded. Let's see, this week. It's not released yet. And her name is Patricia Stepler. And we got into where philosophies of teaching and management sometimes overlap. And Patricia Stepler, when I opened this episode with her in the recording, I started to listen to her talk, and then my first couple of questions, I asked her something like, So, Patricia, the words that you're using to talk about teachers and students in the classroom versus or and team leaders and groups in a professional setting.
Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar.
It seems like the words you're using make me think that you have some kind of clinical background. And she laughed and she said, "No, I don't have a clinical background. I have an educational background." I said, "Of course, yes." But the reason I asked her that is because how you share a perspective, stories you share, vocabulary you use is really interesting to me. Maybe it's just a thing that I like to that I like to grab a hold of during an interview and play with to try to get my guests to share with me some of their behind the scenes thoughts and feelings about the content. So, why did you use the word transparent, for example, or why did you use the word intense, for example? You know, the vocabulary that people use, the vocabulary that you use uncovers a lot about your personality. Are you someone who likes to use warm tones? Are you someone who likes to use ear-catching tones? Are you someone who plays with your voice tone a lot? Are you someone who leans on the microphone a lot for effect? Some of these are technical ideas or technical things to work with. However, are you a personality can also mean why is someone connecting with you? Sometimes when I listen to men, for example, a manly voice or a masculine voice, sometimes without really knowing why at first, maybe you remind me of a person in my life that I have an affinity for or that I have certain ideas around. So there are reasons, maybe to me personally, and this goes for anybody in your audience too, right? That's the nature of an audio piece of entertainment or education. And a podcast or a podcast video even is similar to that. I'm listening to your voice and your words. So why would I want to be concerned about personality? Well, it comes out anyway, whether you like it or not. So sometimes the humor that comes out in your audio or in your video does share some background information that makes me or your audience member connect to you in a way that maybe we don't have we can't exactly put a pin on it, right? What is it about that person that makes me laugh? What is it about that person that makes me listen? What is it about that person? This happened to me one time when I had a workshop, I had a couple interviews with some gentlemen who wrote a book together, and then that turned into a workshop I hosted. And one of the gentlemen who was the co-author of that book, The ROI of LOL, Steve Cody, he lives in New Jersey, and I'm from Virginia. He has a different kind of tone when he speaks. His accent is professionally very clear, and there's something about his voice that I just couldn't place. I really latched onto his voice. When he speaks, when he speaks, I really listen to him. And, it didn't occur to me until maybe a year or so after interviewing this person. And, it's something I thought about, but I just put it aside. Okay, that's fine. He has a good speaking voice. And after a year passed after having met this person, talked to this person, interviewed this person, and it dawned on me that he reminds me of my grandfather. Now, my grandfather is had passed he passed away when I was 17. That was over 20 years ago. But it's just a voice this guy has that reminds me of a person in my life, a figure in my life who has a particular sound that I remember that this person reminded me of. So, I mean, there are all kinds of reasons why people might be attracted to listening to you or watching your content. And one of the things I want to bring up here is the idea that you have to fluff your personality in order to be interesting. I want to say no to this idea. You know, when I come to the producer's notes like this one you're listening to today, it is for me to hopefully share, as I said, background things with you, behind the scenes stuff. And what are my thoughts behind some of the interviews that are produced? Because I don't want to rehash what a guest has said. If you notice in the social clips and articles that are written about the interviews on the Dear Business Coach podcast, they are heavily quote based. So, one of the issues that I have had in thinking about personality and sharing personal perspectives through my eyes, right, has a potential to share with you my personality. So I get encouraged or I get suggestions often to try to do this through video and social media when I'm sharing the interviews. And I have to say, I have still decided that with those particular pieces of content, I really, really want to stick to only the quotes from the guests. I do not want to actually reinterpret or rehash what I think the guest meant by their words. I want to provide those quotes to you and then let you as the individual interpret how you take that quote. And maybe the quote is intriguing enough to you that you say, I don't really know what that person might have meant by that. I need to hear more context. So that might be enough to get you over to the full interview if you're interested. So am I losing out on something by not sharing as much of myself during those opportunities? I don't think so. I think it's a formula that I like, that I'd like to continue. So, where do we share our personalities? Where do I get to tell you who is Elizabeth and what is she thinking about and talking about this week? And of course, that's difficult because there are many days when I think, well, you don't need to know that or want to know that. And yet I find these producers' note sessions highly, highly effective and highly interesting. So, speaking of behind the scenes, I'll take a little break right here, take a sip of my coffee. All right. And thank you so much for being here. I love doing these sessions, especially at 8:30 in the morning Eastern time on Monday. This is every Monday. Every once in a while, I think I've had 2 weeks this year where there was no live, and that was because of a holiday. So this is really casual. You can jump in and listen. And as you notice, this is audio only. Also, I'd like to involve potentially some production assistance in these live sessions during Monday mornings because I've done that once. I had my social media manager come on with me. I think was it last week? Meenakshi was here, and she didn't talk. I told her it was audio only. Just come on and listen, and let me talk to you, and see how that helps me produce something a little bit differently. So that's another idea or another way to exercise this idea of, are you sharing your personality? Are you a personality? How does your personality come through? Well, a couple of ways that can be experimented with has to do with, in my opinion, my humble professional opinion, how you set yourself up for the speaking, who are you directing your speaking to? Somebody told me a while ago, they found very helpful, that in a podcast situation, in a podcast recording setup, right, I'm speaking to one other person. Okay, so this is a secret. If you have your pen or pencil and paper handy, and you're interested in making compelling video content, this is some advice that somebody else gave me that I find extremely helpful, which is talking to one person. So when I get on the microphone and I'm talking to my person who's being interviewed, my guest on the podcast, I want to talk to that person. And I want to get the guest to come into that sphere with me and talk to me. So if I bring you on the Dear Business Coach podcast, I will do my best to sit in the shoes of the ideal client that you might be talking to, so that you can speak to me as if I'm the person you're giving a solution to or giving advice to. So here's another secret. If you're going to come on to the Dear Business Coach podcast, I'm not always looking for your professional profile or your professional advice per se. This is another place to talk about your personality. Are you a personality? When I invite somebody to the show, I don't think necessarily ahead of time, oh, this person is really has a personality, I have to get them on camera. What I want to know is, what is your perspective on leadership? Did you get to be interested in the work that you're interested in? And I don't always ask those questions directly. So if you were to take some transcripts of the podcast interviews and break out the questions that I give people, I don't know if I've ever actually asked somebody directly, how did you get to love the work that you do? Or how did you get into the work that you do? Now, Scott Perry is listening today. Hi, Scott. Hey, Jeff again. And I think that when you ask that question, Scott, to folks in your circle, it is, of course, a fantastic way to reflect. It's part of your process. It's helped me a million times when I have been asked that question by you and others, right? How is it that you came to love what you do? Why do you love what you do? So that is an appropriate question. However, some more behind the scenes information here is what I am looking to do is sort of gather that information for myself during the interview, kind of for fun. Me, Elizabeth, I want you to talk to me as if I'm the person you're giving your professional advice to. So, why do I strive to do it this way? I am looking for that personal conversation when you say, you know what, I want to tell you a story. This reminds me of this one time when I had a meeting and you won't believe what this person said to me. And here's what happened. So that kind of a story sort of came out during Patricia's interview. And that was fantastic. And then at the end of the interview, I hit end recording or pause recording, stop recording, and maybe we have a couple of minutes to say goodbye, and I say thank you before we leave and go on with the rest of our day. And I said, Patricia, how was that? And she said, oh, that was much different than what we usually do in a podcast interview. So honestly, I could tell that Patricia was a professional and does many podcast interviews. So that wasn't surprising to me, but it did surprise me that she went with it, right? It can be very challenging for someone who's not ready for it. If you are ready to answer call and response type questions, and then when we get to the interview, what are we talking about? We're all over the place. Where is she going with this? Yeah, it's because I want to see your personality, and I hope that when I listen to you, I also am going to be triggered a little bit into sharing some of my personality because you're going to tell me some things about you inadvertently that's going to come across. And those are the things that are subtle and fascinating about people that I find compelling. Why do I want to listen to a podcast? I want to get a little bit under the surface. And the way that I want to do this is to hear some tone in your voice when you share a story with me, when you tell me about an experience. And these are the things that I find are the most impactful, highly impactful for an interview situation. So one of the things that I try to do is remember that same advice. When I'm talking to one person, I think more of our personalities kind of float to the top a little bit organically. Now, having said all of that, I will go ahead and throw in an example of something that is really cute, that is a hybrid, in my opinion, of pop culture and personality. Um, we are talking a little bit about social media in addition to the Dear Business Coach podcast. And here's a cute example. We can't ignore, right, the news every once in a while. There's just something like Taylor Swift, right? And who doesn't want to use hashtag Taylor Swift in their post to get a few extra looky-loos? Well, I haven't posted anything about Taylor Swift's engagement yet. I don't know if I'm going to, but here's my example. Active Wall is a company in Martinsville, Virginia, who have had ads of theirs on my channel. I've been to their office and did a promotional video with them. Jennifer, who is in marketing at Active Wall, is fantastic to work with if you're in the market for looking for moving doors and windows solutions. I do not have a paid partnership with them, but I did an advertisement spot with them for exposure, and it was so much fun. And I happened to see Active Wall's Instagram page this weekend, and I'm pretty sure it's Jennifer who would have done this post. She superimposed a picture of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift in front of one of their beautiful buildings featuring a huge wall length Active Wall moving door installation. And in the caption, she said, "Now hear me out. We know some pretty good wedding venues." And that, I thought, was an extremely tasteful way to blend in the little pop culture and a little business and a little personality. So, and the thing about that made me giggle was when I read that caption, because I know Jennifer just as an acquaintance, I thought, well, she definitely had to write that because I've met a couple of the other people in that office, and no offense, guys, but I feel like probably Jennifer's the one who wrote that post. So it's okay to lean into your marketing team of people who have different personalities and different thoughts about the marketplace to post social for you and things of that nature. Anyway, it's 9:02 a.m. That means I'm 2 minutes past quitting time. You have a fantastic week, and I will see you next time. Remember, you are a superstar. Thanks so much. You've been listening to the Dear Business Coach podcast. My name's Elizabeth Walker, producer and host. Don't forget to subscribe to email. Thank you so much for being here, and find one thing today to move your business forward. Contact me at dearbusinesscoachpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, you are a superstar.